My name is Damien. I'm an independent artist, and today I'm going to give you a tour of my home studio. What I hope you get from this video are some ideas from my workflow that could help you out in your workflow. For me, I have designed my studio to be centered around, really just being productive. Everything is talking to each other, everything is working. Whenever I'm in an Ableton or Logic session, everything is mapped where all I gotta do is create. And I've also created my own creative space. So I just want to take some time and show you everything that I have and show you my home studio, and then also walk you through how I have everything wired. So that way, for those that have been following me from the Toolmaster Pro series, I want to show you some interesting ways that you can use gear that you may not have thought of originally. So if you're interested in that, make sure to stick around to the end. First and foremost, I need to say thank you to all my patrons over at patreon.com/DamienAndy who are supporting this channel and supporting me and my art. Thank you guys so much. I wouldn't be able to do all this without you. If you're interested in supporting the work that I'm doing while also investing in your own guitar education and sound design, check out my Patreon. The link will be in the description. I have over 100 different articles published on everything from sweep picking to how to EQ a guitar, etc. If there's something to do with music production and guitar, there's probably an article published over there. When it comes to designing a home studio, I think it's important to start with the why in mind, or the end in mind as well. So if your goal is to compose original music, the next thing you need to start asking yourself is, what type of music? What are the elements in it? So what I personally recommend is building out like a Spotify playlist of artists that are inspiring you. And whenever you listen to it, don't just listen to the guitar part if you're a guitarist, or the drum part if you're a drummer. Listen to all of the orchestration that's going on and really try to understand the sounds that you're hearing. This is called active listening. It takes a minute to get used to, but you're going to start noticing things that, like, oh, maybe he's using a really cool riser pad here. And I take note of everything I do in my notebook. And it's important to have this because whenever we are going to buy gear, which gas is a never ending thing, you can watch any studio setup, and if anybody says that you have all the gear you need and you'll never need to buy another piece of gear, they're lying to you. As producers, we always buy new gear. New gear just, it can change the way you write, it can change the way you think, and it can change your workflow. And I've got some gear that's done that for me, and we'll talk about it. And you know what, that might be the best thing to do, is to start off with all the different gear that I own and talk about why I have it. I guess we'll start off with the Toolmaster Pro. I've already made like a 10-minute video talking about why I love the Toolmaster Pro, so check out my channel and the Toolmaster Pro playlist if you want to see why I got the Toolmaster Pro. But the biggest thing for me is it's my live performance rig. I love how easy it is to change stuff on the fly, and I love the form factor with all the IO capability. It can really do anything I need in my workflow. My other big piece of gear that I use in the studio, and that I use more often now than I've ever used, is the Axe-Fx 3. The Axe-Fx 3, now that I understand modeling thanks to the Toolmaster Pro, this thing is just an invaluable studio tool. It can literally do anything I need it to, from a synthesizer to classic guitar tones, and it's what's routing everything right now. So all of my outboard gear is actually being routed into the Axe-Fx 3, and then the Axe-Fx 3 is my main interface into Ableton. And I've gotten my latency down to, I think last night I was recording at 1.3 milliseconds of delay, which is basically, as a guitar player, you're not going to notice anything less than 5, really about 4.5 milliseconds of delay. So I've got that kind of locked down, and that's also, right now I'm running all of my audio that you're hearing through an external interface from output 2 into my Scarlett interface into my iPhone. So you are hearing audio exactly how I would be recording it into a DAW. And I do this when I live stream too. So if you're interested in hearing me play live, if you grab a pair of headphones or play through a hi-fi system, you'll hear things exactly how I hear it through my hi-fi system. Getting into gear that's kind of changed my workflow and broke me out of pattern or habits is the Launchpad X. This is so much more than what I use it for. I am still learning this piece of gear, and you're going to see that's going to be a trend all throughout. I am a big fan of mastering gear versus buying a gear for one thing. So any gear that you're going to see, there's multiple uses for it, and it's not just a one-trick pony. Because I'm an independent artist, I'm a baller on a budget. I can't just spend $100,000 on all of my wish list items. So I have to be selective of how I choose my money, or how I choose to spend my money. You're going to notice the trend is multiple use with every piece of gear I own. So lately I've gotten really big into finger drumming. Finger drumming has so many applications outside of just doing chill hip hop, which is mostly what I'm using this for. But what I'm noticing is the more finger drumming I'm doing, the more my dexterity is increasing, and I'm starting to unlock Travis picking on the guitar thanks to this. But it's also a MIDI controller. So that means that you can use this to control any digital audio workstation. So you can use it for mixing and mastering on Ableton, all kinds of stuff. I've probably unlocked 5% of this. The next piece of gear that has really opened up a lot of doors for me, and a piece of gear that I really think that if you're writing music, original music, you should really consider getting an analog synthesizer. For me, that was all my research led me to get the Moog Mini Log XD. Before I buy a Moog synthesizer for, I would love to have a profit one day, that investment is pretty steep. And especially as a guitar player, I'd rather have more guitars that, because that's my main writing instrument. So I wanted something that was like, could still do everything I wanted, could teach me the world of synthesis, or what do they call it? Subtractive synthesis, without breaking my bank. And all my research led me into getting the Moog Mini Log XD. It's a polyphonic synthesizer. It's analog, but also digital, so you can save patches and recall them easily. You can program MIDI into your DAW, send it to it, and then as long as you have it routed, like mine's routed into my Axe effects, I can record that MIDI pattern through my synthesizer. So it's really good for, like, if you're familiar as a guitar player, reamping. I basically reamp synthesizer work. And lately I've been creating my own patches. I have mine up kind of high. So I have my external keyboard, which is the Launchpad, or the Launch Key 61. It controls it, and everything is wired seamlessly where it'll control my synthesizer, but the chord, or the launch key, also controls any VST or virtual instrument that I own. But I enjoy analog synthesizers for bass work, pads, and I'm getting into sound design, and it is just an invaluable tool for that. You're just not going to beat analog, in my opinion. The next piece of gear is kind of a non-traditional piece of gear for us in like the guitar community and in the prog rock scene or math rock. If you ever listen to lo-fi, you have probably heard an SP404 without knowing it. At its backbone, it's a sampler with a bunch of really cool effects built into it. The way that I'm using it is, I would say, non-traditional, but also traditional in the hip-hop world. I write songs, and I write songs in sections just like any composer. But what you can do is you can sample those parts of the songs and you can store them onto different banks. So, and I can have it where it loops. So if I press one button, say it's the intro, I can have the intro playing while I'm talking through. So I can hit this and let this just play if it's like pads, carrying a progression and introducing the progression, and I can interact with whatever. Then when I'm ready to start playing, I can hit 2 and it'll automatically change over to the second patch, and then that could be like guitars, rhythm guitars introduced. And then the third patch is like my verse. Then what's really cool is I can do is called pattern chaining. So I can say, all right, for this pattern, I want it to go verse, verse, chorus, verse, verse, chorus, and then I can make it trigger the bridge and then go into a chorus. You can program your song structure into it. What I'm working on right now that's really going to open up doors is the Axe FX 3 can actually send MIDI messages, and you can program a MIDI button just like you would a foot controller. So I'm still learning how to do this. I know the ToneMaster Pro technically can send MIDI CC and program changes, but my idea is to be able to change patches with my feet versus having to actually touch. So this is like a live performance tool. But the other place that I'm using it too is a lot of the effects are just really good on here. There's so many dedicated videos to just this unit, so I'm only scratching the surface in this one. But you can do things like a filter, so I can do, and what I love about this is, this has been my tool for production. I go in and doing everything with a mouse or a touchpad and a keyboard. For me, it's been eye-opening to actually use hardware for doing like the mastering phase or doing effects. And you can even DJ your own work if that's something you're interested in. For my artistry, what I am leaning into is being a blend of Chan with elements of Taiko with like 90s hip hop and lo-fi. That is like me in a nutshell. So super chill vibes. So this is really a valuable instrument, And one last cool thing to do, so with the effects on there being as intuitive and, tactile as they are, it also acts as an interface. So if you connect it over USB-C, what I plan on doing for my stems whenever I'm, in the mastering phase is I'm going to be sending audio to this, doing my manipulation, and then sending that audio back into my digital audio workstation, which lately has been Ableton. So that allows me to really play this like an outboard, you know, gear that I don't have. But this has just so many different effects that just sound, I mean, it's the SP404 sound. This has a rich history and legacy that you should really look into if you nerd out about gear like I do. You know, and the other piece of gear that I have outside of virtual instruments are all of my guitars and my bass. Lately I've been playing keys instead of bass, but all of my guitars have been used that they spawn a different way of playing that leads to a different song. The best way I could probably describe it is they're like paintbrushes. I would like to think that one artist will not paint an entire huge painting with just one brush. There's different brushes for different things. I know this from painting my house. Just to paint my walls, I had like 3 different brushes that I had to use and a roller. And so it's very similar in the, you know, with my music that I write that's guitar centered. So you know, you don't need all of these instruments. There's been people who just play one guitar, but what a treat it is to grab another instrument that's like, oh wow, I play the Stratocaster completely different than the way I play my Tele. Completely different than I play my headless guitars or my Les Paul or my 335. Like they all have different sounds. So you'll notice like the more that you write and compose, you're like, man, this song really needs like a bright twangy thing to really poke through the mix. Oh, let me grab a Telecaster and put it on that bridge pickup and get down on the twang. They have their own unique voices. Like I grew up riding horses. So for me, the best way to describe it is they are honest to God like horses. They all ride a little different and they all force me to paint sound a little bit different. Alright, now I want to show you how all of this is wired up so you can get an idea for how you can wire up your studio, and also the biggest thing is learning how to have really high cohesion and synergy within your gear. Alright, before we jump in, what you're going to see here, this is my wiring diagram for my studio. I did this, so one, I shared it out on my Patreon and I talked through how I have everything connected, but also I did this for my own reference, just so if I am unplugging anything, I can, well one, I got my cables labeled, and then I also have this diagram that I can refer back to. Here's how everything is being pushed. I'm running all of my audio into my Axe-FX 3. From my Axe-FX 3, I'm pushing all audio stereo into my iPhone via a Scarlett interface. And I also have it routed through my hi-fi system by using the headphone out port, and I have an adapter that goes into just like your typical 3.5 millimeter cable. I hear things through my hi-fi system, and when you hear hi-fi system, it just stands for high fidelity. My speakers are vintage. They're 1972 made in America Dynaco speakers, and then I have a Sony receiver that's pushing everything. So that's how I do it, what I hear in the room, and then all that audio is being routed directly into my iPhone. So let's jump into how all this works. I am using 3 inputs on the Tonemaster Pro, or on the Axe-FX 3. So input 1 is my guitar. Right now, again, I'm learning the Axe-FX 3 coming from the Tonemaster Pro, so I'm plugged directly in. My Tonemaster Pro is connected via XLR, and I'm running stereo from the Tonemaster Pro into the Axe-FX 3. So this gives me some versatility. One, my microphone and my SP404 are currently routed through my Tonemaster Pro. So the Tonemaster Pro right now is kind of like an expensive microphone preamp. It also gives me the flexibility that if there's something that I want to record from a patch that I created on the Tonemaster Pro, I keep an extra patch cable plugged in, and then I can just route my guitar through here or through the Tonemaster Pro and then record either directly via USB-C, because I also have it connected to my my MacBook, or I can just run it through and record input 2 from the Tonemaster or from the Axe-FX 3. So it gives me a lot of versatility, because that right there, between the Tonemaster Pro and the Axe-FX 3, there's not a sound I can't get. So anything I hear in my head, I can program it. So again, what you're seeing, what these arrows are, they're just showing USB connection. So anything with this red color is also USB connection. So that's connected to my Mac, and blue is MIDI. Okay, so let's follow back down. So right now, the Roland 404 is connected to my computer via USB-C, so I can record directly from it. But whenever I'm doing live performances, in order to have all of my audio routed into my iPhone where it makes sense, I route it into my Tonemaster Pro. I'm doing some experimentation here right now, because I'm also, for whatever reason, I think there's like a preamp on the aux in that it's just like boosting the volume, where I have to kill the volume almost completely on the SP404. So I still need to dig through the manual for the Tonemaster Pro to see if I can fix this. But nonetheless, right now, that's how it's connected, is the aux in on here. Now on input 3, this is where my Korg Mini Log synthesizer is plugged into. And then this is what I was talking about with my 61 key keyboard. You can see it's connected to my Mac via USB if we follow this up, but it is also connected to the Korg Mini Log. Now, what's interesting is I also have my Korg Mini Log putting out MIDI through the Axif X3 via MIDI bypass. This is just something I wired up to give me extra flexibility because the Axif X3 has MIDI in, MIDI out, and MIDI bypass or through pass or whatever it's called. So in theory, I could route it to any other external gear that I may get, which allows me to use my MIDI controller in so many different ways. And again, that's kind of the theme here, is like flexibility. I think that's everything. I haven't missed out on anything, I don't think. The name of the game is to get a workflow, like any tool that you have. I hope that this at least gives you some ideas of how you can expand what you currently have to kind of avoid going through the endless rabbit hole of gas. I'm a big fan of like, one piece of gear has to have multiple uses and everything needs to work well with each other. So this is my cohesive studio. I hope you guys enjoyed the studio tour. I hope that you left with some inspiration of things that you could do with your current gear. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section, and you know, I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'm pretty active in my comment section. If you're interested in hearing the music that I write, I just released an album last week called School Years. You can stream it wherever you listen to music, and it kind of showcases my width as a composer and as a songwriter. So check it out, really neat. I think. I love every song on there. Each song has a story. If you're interested in hearing those stories, I have a live stream dedicated where we just did an album listening party, and I talk through each song that I wrote and why I did it and how I did it. So if that's of interest to you, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you wouldn't mind helping me out by liking, it really does help if you leave a comment. It boosts this thing called engagement. They're like, oh, high engagement, keep pushing it, which just allows me to continue to grow. And for that, I'm extremely grateful. If you're interested in supporting me while also learning with me, consider checking out my Patreon. There's a link below. Shout out to my buddy's band, Jupiter Pilot, for hooking me up with a sweet shirt. If you want to hear some original rock and roll, and it's a good Mississippi rock band, I'm gonna leave a link to their band below. Check that out. And with that, I'll see you in the next episode.